Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 more things you should know about this awesome full moon we have here, July 13th, 2022, that is all about positive change. It's all about massive, very deep subconscious transformation. And most importantly, it's about aligning more so with the power and the divine guidance of the universe, your higher self, God, however you want to label it, is your own prerogative. But there's a time right now where we are being invited to really just let go and trust more and allow life to flow through us and unfold in a more synchronistic and divinely orchestrated sort of way, leading us to a better life, a brighter life, a life of more happiness and joy and authenticity. Number 1, doing more with less. I'm sure you've had this where you've tried to make something happen and force something that you thought needed to happen. Maybe you had if you're like me, I work off a to-do list, and sometimes I'll say, okay, the night before I go to bed, I write down the 3 things I'm going to do the next day. And I've had days where I wake up and, by God, I'm going to make those 3 things happen. But you know what? Sometimes it's not the right time. And I end up putting in a lot of work, a lot of energy with not a real good payoff. And then there are other times where I listen to my body or intuition and I take a break. And instead of waking up and doing my 3 things, I go for a walk. And on that walk, an amazing idea comes. Or maybe on that walk, I just feel really, really good. And I'm real positive. And I come home and I whip through those 3 things in like a quarter of the time it would have normally taken me. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at now. Now is a good time to really take more time to do nothing and to just be and tune into yourself. Because when we take the time to really just stop doing, essentially, you don't have to meditate formally, but just not do, not be future focused. It's almost like, and you can probably feel it, your energy body, your mind, your heart, chakras, if you will, everything kind of comes, it like reorganizes itself. And you tap back into this universal flow. Where the next logical step, whether it be big or small in your life, is obvious and inspired. And therefore, you make progress very quickly. Just the other day, I woke up and I spent like an hour, which is kind of a long time for me, writing a short email to my newsletter list, which, by the way, I'll leave a link down below. If you're not on my newsletter list, I'll leave a link down below. If you want to join, I send out a few emails a week, similar content to these videos. But anyway, it took like an hour, and there was a lot of editing, a lot of moving things around. I would write it and not like it. I'd rewrite it and still not like it, and I'd copy and paste. And after an hour, I had something that was satisfactory. Then I was done. I thought I was done. So I went over to my little corner. Here I'm in Sedona right now, and I sat on this little mat I bought to meditate on, this little cushion, and I meditated. I set my timer for 10 minutes. That's what I do twice a day. And I sat there, and about 2 minutes later, these ideas just started coming into my mind, and I wrote them down. And after my 10 minutes of meditation, I rewrote the entire email. I sat down and I realized what I wrote was basically just from my mind. It was what I thought I needed to write. And when I took the time to sink in, what I knew in my body and my soul needed to be shared was so obvious, so authentic, that I got up and I wrote a new email from scratch, and it took me 5 minutes, and it was awesome. So that's kind of an example of what's possible when we go through life in a more inspired way, which again does take time to sort of tune into. It's a proactive thing, even though we're not doing anything. But when we take the time to become grounded and meditative and mindful and tap in, whatever that means for you, we can accomplish a lot without so much effort, without so much time. Leaving time to really stop and smell the roses and chill out and read a book and take a nap and things like that. The universe is trying to make room for more joy and more play in our life, but we have to trust it. That's the kicker. it's hard. A lot of us find comfort, especially me, in doing. If I'm doing, I feel safe. If I'm not doing, I feel like, well, there's things that need to be done. There's security in the doing for me. So to not do anything, even though I'm learning, it's smartest and will get me more, bigger bang for my buck. It requires me sitting sometimes with those feelings of restlessness or boredom or sometimes fear and worry and concern and insecurity. But I'm learning that right now is the time to do that. It's the time to breathe through whatever emotions come up when you just sit still. And as they come up and are released, that's when we tap back in. That's when we drop a level deeper into this flow, which allows us to live a life of ease and abundance and even accelerated manifestation. Number 2, I wrote down the big purge. It's kind of alluded to the universe is trying to get us to tap back in to this enhanced flow, if you will. And in doing so, even though it will lead to all the things I said, also, especially in the beginning, it very will likely kick up a lot of subconscious stuff into your psyche, into your emotional body, into the way you get synchronicity, into your reality. I was with my buddy Leor, the other Leor Alexandra, and she knows way more about astrology than I do, and she said, I forgot what planet, Jupiter or Saturn, I don't know, some kind of planets around or something. And she said what it does is it causes a lot of like the deep subconsciousness to come up more to our conscious awareness. And this can be kind of almost like a trippy experience where life feels kind of dreamy. And again, it's like all that normally repressed unconscious stuff that is there in like our deepest shadow all of a sudden is like, it feels like it's real. It feels like it's playing out in our life, even though it's not. It's just the subconsciousness, the shadow is becoming conscious so we can integrate and accept and create space for ourselves and become more whole, essentially. But the experience can be a little bit unusual. And I'll give an example. That sounded probably pretty heady. The other day, my daughter Maya, she's 13 years old, I noticed she was like up really early. She normally sleeps in quite a bit later than me. She was up. I was like, what's going on, Maya? She said, well, I didn't sleep very well last night. Not a big deal. Sometimes people don't sleep well, but because I have a lot of my subconscious stuff coming up, which for me, take it for what you will, it involves a lot of, I would say, trauma with children, involving like my like ancestors, my grandparents, parents. They've dealt with tragedies with kids, and I believe I've had past lives with that. So anyway, my daughter Maya said, I didn't sleep well, Dad. What came up for me was, what's wrong with my daughter? Is she gonna be okay? And it's like these feelings of almost panic, of like, you gotta do something, Dad. This is a serious situation. That was my that was my automatic emotional response to something so benign, obviously. But the cool thing is, I was able to see how ridiculous of a response that was. I didn't take, even though my emotions felt like, you really gotta do something, Dad, I couldn't help but see the logic on the frickin' wall and say, she just didn't sleep well. It's absolutely nothing to concern about. So that's kind of the beauty about this full moon. It's going to allow you to see the difference between just some of the sometimes incoherent subconscious energies, feelings, fears, beliefs, and reality. And that's how we integrate. Because for thousands of years, human beings were driven by their unawareness and their lack of integration of the subconscious. So what would have to happen is it would play out in these sort of karmic lessons, and then they would die, and then they'd say, oh, that was what that was all about. That was that life's theme. Now it's more happening, and we are awake during it. So we're learning all these important soul lessons simply by observing our reactions to things. And then taking a moment to step back and say, is this how I want to respond? Your daughter didn't sleep. Do you really want to rush her to the hospital? Does that seem like the smart thing to do? No, obviously not. So even though it can be a little bit emotional and your life might seem a little bit charged, it's an opportunity to really integrate your shadow. Which, what does that even mean, integrate your shadow? What it means is to no longer be unconsciously driven by the past, which is huge. Because when we step off the hamster wheel of our karmic sort of trajectories, we allow the infinity of what could possibly happen in the moment to be now available to us. And that's how we make these huge changes in our life, because we finally are open to the magic and miracles that are always around. Number 3 is an interesting one. I wrote down soul family pressure cooker. What the hell does that mean, you're wondering? We oftentimes learn the most important lessons through our relationships. And there's a very common theme. I've studied a lot of near-death experiences, and a lot of people who have crossed over and then come back, what they say is what goes through their mind the most after they cross over is how they affected people, how their actions affected the ones that they were closest with in their life. That's like one of the most important aspects, I believe, of coming to Earth, is learning these lessons of how to love more deeply, how to trust more, how to be there, how to live in more of a service to others, and find real happiness by what's usually already around us, which is the people in our lives. But as you know, it's not easy. Relationships are very complicated. A lot of time our closest soulmates come to Earth as our sworn enemies, or our abusive narcissistic parents, or the relationship patterns that we keep manifesting. So it's not easy. And sometimes when we're really lucky, these full moons come in and take all of those karmic relationship lessons and put them in like a little bubble where we feel like we can't escape. We can't escape the energies of these other people in our life. We can't escape maybe the unresolved conflicts that are right there in our freaking face involving relationships. And it can be one of the most uncomfortable things. And yet it involves a lot of soul evolution, whether that interests you or not, relationship evolution. It allows us to let our guard down more, open our heart more, and experience the pure love that's available with us and all the people in our life. But it's not easy. And a lot of times it really just is like us learning lessons. I'll give an example. Many years ago, when I first had my spiritual awakening, I did what a lot of you probably did. I woke up and I realized that life is not as it seems, that most people, at least according to me at the time, I thought were asleep. And I felt very sensitive to all the negativity in the world. So me and my wife and my family, we sold our house and we fled. We bought an RV and we went and lived down in South Florida for about a year, away from everything, away from the family, friends, jobs, all the triggers we just left behind. But eventually, to our own surprise, we felt called back. Even though we felt called to leave, well, we felt called to return. We didn't know why. We didn't really want to go back, but we just had this knowing that we got to go back. There's this unfinished business back where we grew up and where we live. And I'll never forget the first day we got back, wow, huge bug, man. We were going to stay with my parents. And at that time, we were so cracked open spiritually. We had been doing nothing but like eating like raw vegan and meditating. We were so sensitive. And we were in this sort of little bubble where nothing was, there was no real relationship conflict because we had escaped. But now we had come back in this wide open state to my parents' house where we had to live. We were going to live for a week. And I love my parents very much, but it can sometimes be triggering, as you know, as you're going through your awakening. And it was like, we got back, and immediately my dog, we had this big pit bull named Maynard, and he like ran into the house, and no, he didn't. We took him into the backyard, and my parents had their like sliding glass like screen door just sitting there, and my dog ran through, made a hole in the freaking wall because they were so powerful, and went and tried to attack the cat. And that was like the very first That was like, that set the tone the whole week. It was just one intense, unavoidable trigger after the other. And is that fun? No. But what did it help me do? It helped me let go of a lot of my resentment I had for my parents. It helped me see them in a new light. It helped bridge the gap that was growing between us. It helped me accept them. It helped them accept me. It created what was once kind of an estranged, distant like relationship and brought us back into balance. And it was not fun. So if you're going through something like that, maybe not with your parents, but something within your relationship, some kind of changes unfolding or brewing, something that you really just need to look at, some kind of conflict that keeps coming back. Now's the time, even though it's not always easy and comfortable, to really like open yourself up to that and say, what is here? What is this all about? Because you might have a very game-changing breakthrough within yourself and also within your own relationships. Number 4 is positive change. Positive change. Change is inevitable, as you know, and as you may have noticed, as you go through life now, here in 2022, change seems to be happening faster and faster and faster. And it's happening faster, which can, I think for a lot of us, me anyway as well, it can create some kind of confusion, because you may have been really set on something and sort of had this sort of long-term idea of how something in your life was going to go, and all of a sudden it's like new evidence is coming in from all angles, and it's like, whoa, this is not apparently where I'm heading. For example, this house we're living, I'm in, it's a house I bought a couple years ago in Sedona. Normally it's an Airbnb, and we lived in it for a while in the past, and we've been here for about almost like 6 weeks here in Sedona, and we thought we were going to have this house. We thought we'd pass this house down to our children. That was like the idea, and we would just have it forever. But what we're finding is this trip is that the house is a bit too small, and my family and I have been in that family pressure cooker. And it just feels like it's not a right fit all of a sudden for the energy of our family. And we're having all these sort of weird problems and like, almost like these little manifestations to reflect the dissonance within the clash between us, our family's energy, and this house. And even though, again, we have these like notches on like the door of the kids growing up, and we had all this sort of like fairy tale type of idea about it, we're like, we might sell this house. And to sell, the idea of selling the house, it makes me sad. I feel a genuine sadness because we do have a lot of fond memories here. We basically redid the whole house. We gutted it, took down walls, and it's all our own creation. But now, as we're getting older and moving through life and changing and growing, it's no longer a fit, and that is what it is. And even though it's sad, I know it's going to open us up to something new, because that's what always happens. That's what always happens with change, when we allow it. And I'll give one last example before I move on. One of the things you guys know I share about all the time, one of the changes I struggle with accepting is my children getting older, because I love them so much. And I know as they get older, they're going to just, one day I'm going to wake up, just me and my wife and probably a couple of dogs, and the house to be quiet, and I will have nothing but memories of my children living there. And it's such a intense but fleeting time. And anyway, I woke up one day a few months back feeling really sad about this, really sad about my son Lucas in particular. He's 8 now, and he's just getting older and no longer dad's little sidekick, and he takes more time to himself. And I woke up just sort of realizing that, and I just felt real sad. I was like grieving, almost like I wanted to cry kind of thing. But luckily, he's got an older sister, and I've already been through this, so I kind of understand that, you know what? Sometimes these chapters close, and you wake up one day thinking things are going to be a certain way, and all of a sudden the chapter's closing and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like life is happening. The river of life is flowing and things are changing. And it's like, whoa, it can take some getting used to. It can make you feel sad. But anyway, on that particular day, I was going through all this with my son Lucas. But this time, I knew I could accept it. And I knew that new chapters would open up. And later in the day, I was going to go to this rock and roll concert, this Tool concert with my wife, Pattie, which this band only tours like every few years, and it's a big deal for me. Not so much Pattie, but for me. Anyway, something came up, and my wife had to stay back to drive my daughter to basketball or something. And it was like, oh man, what am I gonna do? I couldn't really get anybody to come last minute. And then I look over and I see my son Luke, who happens to love rock and roll, even like the harder rock and roll stuff. And I was like, Luke, do you wanna go? He's like, yeah, I'd love to. And the point is, I was letting go to Luke, the little baby, and I missed it, but now there's this older Luke that can go and enjoy rock concerts with Dad. He couldn't have done that before. So I let go of one thing and I get something new. It's new, it's exciting, it's enriching for a father and son in its own way. And that's just an idea, kind of a metaphor for what happens when you just let go, allow yourself to process whatever emotions come up, but knowing as one door closes, of course, another will open, always. Number 5, committing to your future self. Investing in your future self. A lot of times, the way I've noticed this process of personal evolution works, it almost as if our self or the universe likes a little bit of commitment. It likes to see how serious we are. And I'll give an example. There's this woman, one of my coaching clients a few months ago, and she came on and she was debating on whether she should invest in this certification program that we are offering. It's this breathwork certification program led by my buddy. And I was like promoting it for him. And she was like, Vic, man, it's not a smart financial decision right now. But, and by the way, this person, she's wanting to go full time with her purpose, which is what we do with this coaching program. And she's like, but I feel it would be the right move. What do you think? And of course I was like, I can't make that choice for you. You got to manage your own finances. But I explained to her that many times there's been almost like an awareness of where I could go, but I had to commit. And there's times I had to invest myself into a coaching program or something like that, even though it didn't make sense, financially. But in doing so, it's like showing the universe I'm taking this seriously. And that's what she did, and she's thrilled. She's loving it, and she's coming into her power, and it's really beautiful to see. For me, what's going on is, as a lot of you know, I have this new coaching program that'll be available in about a week, by the way, next Monday. Today's Monday, next Monday, I'm gonna open enrollment, just so you know. It's $29 a month to work with me every week. But anyway, this idea came up to buy this new camera. I noticed I met this guy named Kyle Cease, and I saw one of his coaching videos, and I saw how much better quality it was. And I was like, damn, what kind of camera do you use? Kyle was like, well, I don't know. I asked my assistant. So I asked her, and she gave me this whole list of stuff, but it's expensive. This camera I'm using here is I've had it for probably 4 years, and it's very cheap for most YouTubers by far, especially how long I've been doing it. And before that, I used an iPhone. But anyway, so I was like, ooh, I don't really want to do that, man. I don't really feel like, I don't know. It's kind of a lot of money for a camera. But I'm sort of stepping into this new point in my life, and this new coaching program to me feels like it's going to be a big part of my life. And regardless, I feel like buying that camera, even though I don't like it financially, it feels like it's a commitment to this new version of myself. That's just a metaphor for me. So maybe there's some sort of opportunity for you that feels right, but you maybe think it's premature. What I've learned, this is just me and this is just general, is that whenever it feels right, like intuitively, not just feelings, because those can be wishy-washy, but intuitively, when you have that knowing that I should do this, it's your higher self calling you forward on a path that will lead to where you want to go in an accelerated way, but you really just have to trust. And I found that once you make those micro commitments, that's when you tap into all the support of the universe, the synchronicity, the right people coming into your life, the right opportunities, everything, okay? I'll give this other example. One of the clients that came to mind, her name is River. And she came into our program, and she wants to be like a healer and run cacao ceremonies. And she built this website, and she started taking the action steps just on faith that things would work out. And then all of a sudden, Once she started getting momentum with her forward movement, even though she thought this journey was going to take a long time, she got this call out of left field from somebody who wants her to run a retreat with her, which to River, it's a humongous opportunity. And it's one of those things where she could have said, you know what, I'm not ready, I don't know. But she jumped in. And it's so beautiful to watch her really just blossom. And I just gave that as an example of how when you commit to yourself, you don't have to understand how it's all going to work. But when you trust that feeling inside of yourself, that screams in your body, yes, 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 there will be assistance, there will be support, whether you can foresee it or not. And oftentimes we can't. And that's what it means to have faith. And now's the time to really have faith and to really invest yourself, whatever that means for you, commit to your future path. Because the old path, the old life is crumbling away. You can probably feel it. There is no longer an option to hold on, and it's going to involve going down with the ship. And nobody wants to do that. And we're seeing a lot of that right now in the world. These energies are being kicked up, and a lot of people are going into fear, they're going into control, and people like you came here to do something different. To not play that game anymore. That game has been played out too many times in the cosmos. Now it's time to really reconnect with this deeper part of ourself that we don't understand, we can't intellectualize, we can't prove the validity of it, and yet it's there. And that feeling is getting stronger and stronger and stronger, and is here to say, listen, I'm God, I'm the universe, I'm your higher self. I can take you to where you want to go. And not only is it about you going where you want to go, it's about the example you set. It's about the example you set that gives other people who are going down with the ship an opportunity to say, you know what, this person's doing something different. I don't know what the hell it is they're doing, but they look happy. They seem fulfilled. They seem light in their energy. They seem playful. They laugh a lot. They joke around a lot. They're in a good mood quite often. Their health seems to be good. They're seeming like their life is going well for them. What's their secret? And you can just sort of say, well, the secret is you listening, following, trusting your intuition. And I believe it's people like you that have a loud intuition is what's going to create this ripple effect across the entire planet. Because one empowered person living an authentic life can change hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. And if you just can imagine that sort of like 100th monkey effect rippling out throughout the world, it starts with you. People like you are not waiting for the aliens to come and beam themselves down and save us from the corrupt world. You maybe are the alien that came here incarnate to Earth to make this change, to be an example. You've been waiting on nothing but that feeling inside of yourself that says, here's the next step. I suggest you go for it. And this full moon is going to support you in all the different ways necessary to help you take that next step and the following and the following and the following. Okay? So with that said, my friends, have an amazing day. Once again, that program I've been mentioning probably several times now, it's a weekly coaching program with me and my wife, Pattie. It's only $29 a month. I know that sounds like a catch or something, but it's not. It really, really isn't. It's something we feel inspired to do. It's going to be our full effort, our full energy, and not only working with you every week, but taking you through a process we've taken thousands of people through that helps them transform their lives. It's built for spiritual seekers like you. And the main themes of the program are healing. Not just instructing you about healing, but collective healing online experiences like breathwork and past life regressions. It's going to be about you really becoming clear and going for your life purpose. You do have a life purpose, I promise you. And I guarantee this program will bring it up for you and give you this chance to follow it. And when you start walking that authentic path, that's when everything changes. That's when everything in your life starts to reflect you on your authentic path. And it's all about also listening to your intuition. I don't have any super secretive advice to give you, but what I can promise you is this program will allow you to tap into your own source of guidance. And the combination of the healing, the purpose, and you listening to your intuition fully, I've seen it change people's lives. I've seen it change thousands of people's lives. And that's exactly what program's all about. And it's only $29 a month. You can cancel anytime. And enrollment opens next Monday. I'll send you the details next Monday. Have an amazing day, my friends. Much love.